Before this video on Seliph begins, I would like to ask all of you to please like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel.
There is no meme. This is just a threat.
In life, some people just seem as though they're destined to live out their existence in a preset fashion. People will try to do what they want and be who they want to be, but reality tends to have a nasty way of stopping that from happening. Seliph Baldos Chalfi was a boy who really had little choice in how he lived out his life. From birth, he was seen by the people of Udral as a symbol of hope and the fight for justice. The world told Seliph that he was a hero, and he had no choice but to grow into the pair of shoes he was given. But here's the thing. Some people crumble under the weight of others' expectations, especially ones as lofty as rebuilding a shattered continent. But Seliph would prove to the world, and also to himself, that he was more than up to the challenge ahead of him. Before we can explore Seliph's story, though, we need to look at Sigurd's story to understand why the people of Udral needed a hero so bad. To make a very long and very depressing tale short, Arvis, the Emperor of Grandvale, was able to trick the entire continent into thinking that Sigurd was a rat bastard man, and had him killed in a rain of fire known as the Battle of Belhala. However, years later, Arvis's reign turned sour, and people realized that Arvis was the rat bastard, not Sigurd. The people then saw Sigurd for the tragic hero that he was, and in the few years that followed, they turned to Sigurd's orphaned son to carry on his legacy of justice. Seliph was living in hiding in the northeastern country of Isaac, and when his location is snuffed out by the Empire, he's forced to take the field, sword in hand, and from there on out a cavalcade of events beyond his control begin to shape both his life and the fate of the entire world. Seliph's introductory scene has him making his stand against the Empire when they try to invade the town of Turnanog, where he's been in hiding. His first big battle isn't some kind of militaristic siege or anything of the sort. He just wants to protect the city and its people, because they had been a home to him for 17 years. This portrays him as a very kind and down-to-earth man. From the start, he knows that he's where he is due to the kindness of others, not necessarily his own strength. And speaking of his own strength, Seliph is well aware of the fact that he lacks it. From his early conversations with Julia and Lewin, he knows that he isn't strong enough to save the continent from the Empire. But he also remarks how he's going to keep growing and keep getting stronger. He's a man who's aware of the road ahead of him and the steps he needs to take to walk down that road. Unfortunately for him, he can't take that road in a leisurely stroll. As he fights back in Isaac, his aide Lewin informs him that the world, well, in a word, it's fucked. The Empire is hunting down children for the sake of some weirdo Satan cult, the people are being oppressed all across the land, and any rebellion that's formed is quickly crushed like it was nothing more than a colony of ants. However, Seliph's existence as Sigurd's son gives him a face and name the people of the land can latch onto as a symbol. The army he leads has a presence that no other rebellion has, and Seliph has to use that. He can't just run away from the eyes of the world. Sigurd's actions left an imprint on all of Udral, and everywhere Seliph goes, he finds friend and foe alike from that imprint. With the weight of the world on his shoulders, Seliph takes charge of the Liberation Army and starts to march on the offensive. While the fighting in Isaac is going on, Seliph is introduced to a young woman by the name of Julia. She is placed under his care by Lewin, which is not the first or last time he's abandoned the responsibility of watching a child. She and Seliph start to get along very quickly, with Seliph's compassionate heart making sure she's feeling comfortable and welcomed in her new environment. He makes a vow to her, saying, quote, "Listen, Julia, I know it'll be hard for you without Lewin here, but I promise it'll be alright. Until Lewin returns, I swear I'll let no harm come to you. I know I've still much to learn, and as yet I'm not all that strong, but one day, someday I know I'll be strong enough to protect us all. Someday, I'll have the strength to defend all the world's people from the Empire's wrath. Someday I'll be strong, as my father once was." And the thing is, Seliph's feelings of inadequacy are not just felt in story. You feel it in gameplay as well. Ask anyone who's played all of the FE games who the best unit in the franchise is. You might hear some Seths, some Hars, some Robins and Corins, but a name you'll likely hear more than any other is Sigurd. He's powerful at base, grows well as the game goes on, and is damn near unstoppable from start to end. It has been 25 years and over 10 games of Fire Emblem since Genealogy of the Holy War, and Sigurd is still on the top of unit tier lists. So when you go from that to Seliph, a foot unit on big maps without any cool skills that struggles to reliably kill a lot of units, even the player is like, man, I gotta use this now? It reinforces Seliph's feelings of his own weakness because you know what Sigurd's strength was like, so you know how far Seliph has to go to reach his father's shadow. After he leaves Isaac, Seliph receives word that his cousin, the young Prince Leif of Leonster, is under fire from the Empire, and so he sets off on a rescue mission to free Leif from the long, drawn-out siege King Bloom has been subjecting him to. Seliph coming to Leif's aid is a sort of way to fulfill the debt of their fathers, as when Sigurd was under fire from Verdane, it was Leif's father Quan who rode to his rescue. And now, when Leif is under fire, it's Sigurd's son coming to save him, an action that portrays the friendship of Quan and Sigurd spanning past their lifetimes. Their sons too are now linked in the vow of brotherhood and friendship. And there's a third man of this friend group as well, Eldigan's son, the Black Knight Ares. One of Sigurd's biggest failings was his inability to make peace with he and Quan's longtime friend Eldigan. They were only ever able to meet on the battlefield as enemies, as Eldigan was executed by the douchebag king himself, Chagall. And while Sigurd was unable to ease Eldigan's rage, Seliph found himself more successful in calming Ares. In saving both Ares and Leif, Seliph is shown to not only inherit his father's legacy, but in some ways surpass it, as he is managing to mend some of the wounds Sigurd's rampant heroics tore asunder. While the fight's going on, though, Seliph has doubts in his mind that the fight for justice is as clear-cut as he once thought. As he's rescuing Leif, he seizes control of a shrine for the villainous Lopter cult, and therein learns the history of its people. Many moons ago, yes, the cult was an evil force working under a demonic dragon god, but those people were defeated and their schemes put to rest. However, the children of those villains faced persecution and prejudice, all for the sins of their fathers and mothers. To these people, the dark god Lopter was the only dream they had, since the rest of the world had shunned them away as the lingering ashes of an evil flame. Knowing that the lives they led was something that was forced on them, Seliph struggles to be able to say his foes are really, truly evil. It's a kind of gross manipulation, where the Lopter cult was evil because they were constantly told that they were evil. Just making someone into something just for the sake of repetition is just gross and manipulative. That's right, I want you to subscribe to the FEMS Paint Patreon, where you can help support this channel and all the bullshit that it entails. For as low as $3 a month, you can gain access to things like being mentioned on every single video. Wow! Some of our higher tier patrons even get their names read aloud, and those patrons include Atomic X160, Dell, follow Penta the North Star on Twitch, subscribe to Great Riek, Green Brigand, Hell on Heelys, Kieran Morin, Lightning Bolt, Me Do a Gamer, Nember, Nevrix, Rangerman Sam, Wario Carol, Ryan Walter, Space1255, Steph D, Tato, Brentendo11, Drew Hack, Michael Hamilton, and Memi. Thank you all for your continued support, and we'll get back to your regularly scheduled programming. The doubt over morality in Seliph's heart continues to grow stronger and stronger, again when he must fight against King Gloom's son, Ishtor. He was a good man who unfortunately had an absolute dickhead for a father, and Seliph expresses remorse in having to end the life of a man who could have been a great ally had things only been a little different. But Luna remarks that all the people they're fighting are serving the will of a corrupt tyrant. No matter how sympathetic they are, they must go down, regardless of how Seliph feels about it. Seliph begrudgingly accepts this truth, but he still has doubts on the morality of his fight nevertheless. Seliph's hesitance to call him and his cause truly right is a level of understanding not always seen. Few people have the maturity to acknowledge their own potential failings, and Seliph doing so is a testament to the content of his character. However, there reaches a point where the inner conflict in Seliph's heart reaches a breaking point, when he comes face to face with King Travant and the Dragon Knights of Thracia. See, Thracia's a rough place to live, even before the whole tyrannical empire and Satan cult showed up. Their land is almost completely infertile. Crops can't grow, so all that people can do to survive is sell death for a living. Their Dragon Rider mercenaries take to the skies to fight battles for who knows what and why, also they can survive another year. Knowing that these enemies have no choice in their lives, Seliph's resolve wavers. He struggles to justify his army fighting against people he knows aren't wicked at heart. Lewin flips out at him for these feelings, telling him that if he doesn't like it, he can just go back home to Isaac. It's a harsh declaration, but with the threat of a Dark God's revival on the horizon, the Liberation Army has no chance if their leader is so scared of doing what must be done. Understanding this fact, Seliph says, quote, "An inevitable battle lies ahead, and if we see in it naught but futility, then it is my duty to carve my own purpose into it. Come, Oife, Lewin, I'll never again flinch or turn away." Though his compassionate heart remains, he knows that he must steel it for what lies ahead. Never again does he raise objections to who he must fight. After the Thracians have been dealt with, Julia comes to Seliph with a concern. There's a fear in her heart that she just can't shake. She feels as though she and Seliph will soon be separated, a worry that Seliph tells her to calm. He swore to her that he would protect her, and so he will. Though there is one teeny tiny problem with this. Seliph fails to protect her, and she is stolen away by the wicked Bishop Manfroy. This directly mirrors Sigurd's failure to protect Deirdre from that very same bastard bishop, and it seems to set the stage for Seliph to fail in his quest the same way Sigurd failed in his. But just as Julia is taken away, and it seems history is doomed to repeat itself, Seliph finds himself against the enemy that set this entire tragedy in motion, the Emperor of Grandvale, Arvis. Arvis stands guarding the castle of Chalfie, the castle where the events of genealogy of the Holy War began, the home of Sigurd, and the place Seliph is the rightful heir to. Before he faces off against him, Seliph is given his birthright, the Divine Blade Turfing, the holy weapon passed down his family bloodline. With its divine blessing, Seliph is at long last able to end the reign of the Flame Emperor, avenging his father's defeat and, for the first time in the nearly 20 years he's been alive, step foot in his homeland. And it's around this time in the game that Seliph's victory isn't just felt by the story, it's yet again incorporated into the gameplay. While Seliph's base abilities compared to Sigurd were incredibly lackluster, his potential far outclasses Sigurd's. Seliph's promotion gains combined with his growth mean that on average, his later game combat surpasses Sigurd's late game combat, especially when he gets the turfing. Seliph's victory over Arvis feels like it was well deserved both in story and in the game itself. He's come a long way since that weak, sword-locked walking boy back in Isaac. However, in spite of the fact that the Battle of Belhalla from all those years ago was avenged, Seliph still feels hollow. This is because he knows that the war is still far from over. Even when he's at long last where he belongs, he isn't ready for celebration. Julia is still captured, the Dark Dragon is still ready for his return, there's still work to be done after the victory. And it's not a victory that Seliph won alone. After Arvis's death, the spirits of his parents come to give him an important reminder. Through the power of ghost communication that's honestly never really explained, Deirdre and Sigurd tells Seliph that he must always remember that he's where he is thanks to the help of his allies. Seliph was never a man lacking in humility, but his parents' words helped reinforce the positives in Seliph's character as a man of outstanding virtue. With his parents' words deep in his heart, Seliph takes the stage for the final battle, the final holy war, during which Lewin reveals to Seliph he and Julia's true heritage. They are half-siblings, sharing Deirdre as a mother. Realizing that he had family he never knew, his resolve to save her is strengthened further, though he finds her in a less than desirable state. She's been brainwashed by Manfroy's dickbag magic, and the spell can't be broken unless Manfroy dies. And naturally, Seliph rides up and finally puts a blade in Manfroy's cold, black heart. Much like with Arvis, Seliph manages to strike down a foe that his father was completely unable to defeat. With Julia's mind recovered, Seliph has conquered all that escaped his father's grasp. He was able to defeat the Lopter cult, he quelled the ambitions of Travant and Arvis, and he was able to rescue his family when they needed him most. He not only inherited Sigurd's legacy, he surpassed it. Seliph's tale is one that is deeply intertwined with that of Sigurd's. They constantly feed into each other and make the other stronger. Seliph's legacy of triumph over the dark dragon Lopter will forever be known in the land of Yggdrasil. And to think, their great hero is a very humble, down-to-earth young man. Seliph never brags or boasts. He's always keenly aware of his weaknesses and the strength of his allies. He will always be remembered as the Scion of Light, the man who pierced the darkness and ushered in an era of peace for all Yggdrasil. But as far as he's concerned, he is always just a man named Seliph Chalfi. Never anything more, and never anything less. I would like to thank all of you for coming to watch yet another Fire Emblem MS Paint character analysis video. Any view of this is always appreciated, and I will always love all of you for coming to watch. As always, a huge thank you to the Green Brigand for helping with the script and just being an overall good guy. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Patreon, and get me trending on Twitter. We gotta dethrone those Minecraft people somehow. Until next time.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye.